Welcome to another Dark Nook video. In this video, I'm making a skull candle. I'm using a plastic skull that I got from Walmart. This isn't the skull that I'm using, but it's the same painting methodology, so you just slather it in brown paint and then wipe the paint off with a damp paper towel. The more brown paint that you leave on the skull, the older it'll look. So if you want it to look relatively fresh, you wipe off most of the brown. But if you want it to look old and decayed, like something that's been sitting in a crypt for a long time, then leave more of the brown on. You can also repeat the process a few times to get the balance right and to layer the colors. You can use slightly different colors of brown or add in a little bit of green to get a kind of moldy look. I'm going to be using this skull. Once the aging is done to a point where you're happy with it, then you can paint the teeth. Now the teeth and the skull, they're going to look relatively similar, but you want the teeth to have a slightly lighter color. I'm using a slightly off-white acrylic paint called Toasted Marshmallow. They're not going to be this white, because once this layer of paint is dry, I'll go back over them with brown a couple of times, with a couple of washes, just to knock them back and make them look aged and old. But I still want them to look a little bit lighter than the rest of the skull, just, because they're teeth. Please like and subscribe, click that bell so you get notified when I post new videos, and feel free to leave a comment or ask a question. I'll touch it up a little bit more with a little more brown or black in the cracks and crevices, just to age it a little bit more. once all the paint is done, I can start cutting the holes for this candle. Now I have an LED candle. I only use LED candles for this kind of project because I've actually seen crafters on YouTube recommending using actual candles and plastic skulls together, which is just not a good idea. That is a recipe for starting a fire in your house that you don't want. Real candles will burn down eventually, and they'll get down to where the plastic is, and if you're lucky, they'll just go out. But it's also entirely possible with this thin plastic, the wick can very easily light that warm plastic on fire. And once that fire starts and plastic is burning, it's going to be a big problem. Burning plastic can create all kinds of toxic fumes. It can be a very difficult fire to put out. Once it starts burning on a surface, it will keep burning on that surface. It is a nightmare. You don't want to have that in your house. So I highly recommend you only use LED candles for this sort of thing. But I've got this really cool LED candle, by the way, that looks like a real candle. It has a very clever mechanism where rather than having an orange flickering LED light, it has a solid orange LED light and a little flame-shaped piece of plastic that rocks back and forth slightly, causing a flickering effect that looks extremely realistic even close up. So what I have to do is simply cut a hole in the top and the bottom of this skull that is the same diameter as the candle. The complication that you run into is that because it's at a slight angle, the hole isn't really circular. It has to be a bit of an oval. It's difficult to map out exactly on the skull where you need to cut so that the candle will fit through at the right angle. So it's kind of a trial and error thing. You cut most of the way, see how the candle fits, cut a little bit more, see how the candle fits, cut a little bit more, see if it's sticking in a particular area, cut a little bit more. Once it's cut, you want to sand it down so that it doesn't have any burrs or sharp edges sticking out. Once I have the candle fit, then I used hot glue around the top opening and the bottom opening, not only to fill in the gap between the skull and the candle, but hot glue looks a lot like melting wax. So I dribbled hot glue down the edge of the candle, I dribbled it down the side of the skull. That just enhances the entire look of the piece while securing the candle in place. And here it is, all finished. Doesn't that LED look cool? I'm really happy with the way this turned out. Please like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below, and be sure to click that bell so you get notified when I post new content. And thanks for checking out my video.